Shaharnama is an initiative of Prabha Khaitan Foundation. We are thankful to Rajasthan Tourism for their kind support. We thank Sri Cement for supporting Shaharnama as a part of their CSR initiative. Last but not the least, our heartfelt gratitude to ITC Rajputana and SR's women for helping us put together this festival that celebrates writings on cities. Amandeep Sandhu, author of the book Punjab, Journey Through Fault Lines, has cemented his place in the literary arena with his evocative social commentary and powerful storytelling on Punjab. Rasheed Kidwai, columnist, political analyst, and author, joins him in a discussion on a subject that has become topical with mini Sampatram in the concluding session of Shaharnama. So now, let us sit back and enjoy the session Punjab Express with Amandeep Sandhu and Rasheed Kidwai in conversation with Mini Sampatram.
Good evening, everybody. We have Mr. Rasheed Kidwai and Amandeep Sandhu, and we welcome them to our pink city. And thanks Prabha Khaitan Foundation and SAS Women for having this topic. Amandeep and me, we are meeting for the second time because we had a similar conversation when the COVID had just started. So we'll start our session. Kidwai sir, you are a very prominent political journalist and a commentator. So you have been involved with the print media and now with the books. So why have you, there has been the switch? Maybe no.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, a journalist has has a schedule of writing and reporting on a daily basis. But it's as my former editor MJ Akbar used to say, that after 8:30 a.m. or 9 a.m., it's the news becomes 5 rupees a kg. That comes out. He was talking about that Rati, that Kabari, that person who takes away the newspaper. Other books have a far more lasting this thing, and I realize that how our the democracy is shaping. I think we as a voter, we need to have some kind of informed choice, and that has been my endeavor. I've written a book called Bharat Ke Pradhan Mantri, so that we get to know how the kind of work that our 14 prime ministers did or could not do. Rather than just making a sweeping statement that the world perhaps, as a democracy started with Nehru or with Prime Minister Narendra Modi also, so that people they get to know, and it's anecdotal, it's based on a lot of research and with references. So that has been there, that we are able to present facts about politics and politicians, because as you know, like cricket and films, we all are very naturally inclined towards politics and politicians.
Any difference, between writing for media and for books?
I think yes, there is a very qualitative difference, and just not only the shelf life. I think the books are a far more serious business. It makes work very hard, because you need to have a research. I have tried to do most of the books from a neutral position, in terms of. I think the absolute neutrality doesn't exist, लेकिन मैंने कोशिश ये की कि साक्षी भाव से चीज़ों को प्रस्तुत किया जाए, प्रेजेंट किया जाए.
Amandeep, now coming to you, your first two books were non-fiction, and then you wrote that brilliant book on Punjab, which stirred our souls. It was full of joy and it was full of pain. I couldn't go through your book in one stretch. It was so painful to go through it that I almost took, I think, about 3-4 months to finish your book. So may I know what made you shift from non-fiction to a novel that is Punjab? Sorry, novels to non-fiction, I mean.
Well, thank you. This book was not meant to be finished in one night anyway. It's neatly divided into chapters. And I think if people can read a chapter at a time over 2-3 days. The reason for shifting from novels to non-fiction, there are 2 or 3 reasons, and I want to share them here. Also because it is about literature. First is that Both my first novels were semi-autobiographical. First one was on madness. Second one was on life in a boarding school in Punjab in 1984. And then I was sort of prepping up to do this book, you know. In some ways I feel it was a lifelong journey to do this book. And I think what happens with writing is that I differ with Kidwai sir a little bit. I don't think there is any neutral position in writing. I don't think there is anything objective about writing at all. You can't be an objective writer. Because my understanding is that everything that you see and experience and observe and research, it mediates through your own personal mind, your own self, and is represented in writing. So there is always a subjective point of view to it. People can take the same, like this movie Rasheed. The same facts happen, three different witnesses give three different accounts of it. Right? So that's my thinking. And in terms of shifting from autobiographical fiction to making a travelogue, come memoir, come contextual history, isn't actually such a big shift, you know. Because this is also doing similar work like those did. And I was very amused when publishers or genre makers or literature people, they like to slot something as literary fiction, a term I don't understand at all. What does literary fiction mean? It's typically an Indian term, Indian publishing term. Or put something as non-fiction, or put something as travelogue. Because, I mean, hello, here a few years back, a songwriter wins the Nobel Prize for Literature. So I think the literary world itself is, the marketing of the literary world is very far behind where actually writing is happening. And today writing is happening everywhere. It's happening on Facebook, it's happening on Twitter, it's happening on WhatsApp University. Then how do you distinguish good writing from bad writing? And that is the only criteria I have in mind. That is your writing good or is it bad? And that good and bad is completely again subjective. There is no framework to it. So my transition hasn't been that big, but it looks, you do novel likhi, uske baad non-fiction likha.
You have never stayed in Punjab.
I stayed there for 7 years in the peak of militancy.
You know, but by and large, you have been away from Punjab. So why did you choose to write on Punjab?
As I said, it was a prepping up for a long time, you know, and though I lived briefly in Punjab for 7 years, but the messaging from Punjab in the last 25 years, at least even since militancy ended in '93, Punjab, I saw people singing in various ways. For somebody it is Bhangra, for somebody it is Chole Bhature, for somebody it is Bhindranwala, for somebody it is Sufi music, or Langar, Gurdwara, Sikh, female feticide, Dalit issue. You know, all these are when I put these words on a board, I couldn't make sense of it. They were cancelling each other out. So I said, so what is my Punjab? What is this Punjab that I want to know? It hurt me that we don't have a comprehensive answer to what is Punjab. And I said, there's a need to do this book. I was just telling Kidwai sir, sitting outside, it was, even when I read all the literature on Punjab, and I talk about it even in the book. Now my mother was schizophrenic, then she had a cardiomyopathic situation where her heart had enlarged, and then she had breast cancer. You know. At one time we were giving her 23 medicines. The heart doctor won't look at the cancer doctor won't look at the mind, but she was one person. Similarly, Punjab to me is one thing, one place, one people. But there is a political point of view on Punjab, there is a sociological point of view, there is an economic point of view of Punjab, caste, gender, and yet it never comes together for anybody. And when I stepped into Punjab to do this book, there was this Kisan Andolan going on at that time, previous one. And at the same time, an incidence of Bearby, the sacrilege started. And I said, oh my God, Punjab is knotted. And when you see the knots and one knot after another knot and after another knot, so this is a lump of knots. How do I talk about it in one particular way? That is why I did this book, in which I bring and doing the book, I realized I can't write a book on Punjab. I can only tell what I have seen, what I have experienced. I can hopefully communicate it to the world, because once I got into Punjab, I realized it's the ocean, and I can only do a little bit of thing on it. That's what I have attempted to do. And I also feel that these knots are not that you can't open them, but there's a huge lack of political will to solve Punjab. Because keeping Punjab in this turmoil helps everybody.
That's right.
It helps local politicians, it helps central politicians, it helps businessmen, it helps all sorts of power structures around Punjab, and not only political, even others. And as a consequence, Punjab is not doing well.
Kidwai sir, what do you do writing about Congress, if I may ask?
I think, again, when we talk about politics, there are basically two wide ideological stream or political stream. One is, of course, represented by the BJP, earlier Johnson, and another being the Congress. And I was very fascinated by, you see, if you look at the history of Congress, it's very different from the story of Congress. In my books, I have tried to mention more about, the story of Congress rather than the history of Congress. History is a far more serious subject for academicians and scholars. Like Amandeep Sandhu was saying about Punjab, that there are layers within layers and there are knots. I think when we talk about political parties, we tend to again look at it more in terms of personalities. Again, Indira Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi. But we don't understand or realize, you see, what kind of games that are, kind of played within a political party. That some of you, I know personally, that I know things better than me. That, for instance, the role that maybe late Ahmed Patel played in the Congress, or Winston George, or R.K. Dhawar, or Fatehgar. These were the names. They were supposed to be advisors to the Congress president, and they would play all kind of tricks from the time of Indira Gandhi. And even we talk about Punjab politics and all. They made a lot of qualitative difference. I would say more for the worst part of it. There's always this thing about poetry culture, that chopri, poetry. In the Mughal Darbar also there used to be Navaratans, and also there are always some favorites. We also call them rootless wonders, people who don't win elections and yet they are very powerful and effective. So I think when we talk about politics, I thought in my modest way I would bring spotlight on such characters and bring not so much, as I said, not history of Congress party, but the story of Congress, that of its success and of its failure also.
You have been updating your books from time to time. In the last one decade, maybe more than a decade now, the power equations in Congress have changed altogether. 24 Akbar Road no longer dictates the country. So what do you have to say about it?
I think this is, one is of course the phase of politics. We must not forget that when the BJP was formed in 1980, the first election it faced, it got reduced to just 2 seats, and until very Vajpayee and many followers are lost. So it just happens. The Congress also is lost in many times. But when you were asking me, I was just reminded of Mr. Manishankar Iyer. One day I asked Mr. Manishankar Iyer that what has been your equation with Rajiv Gandhi and with Sonia Gandhi, like husband and wife, and both of them were Congress president. Manishankar is a very witty person. He gave me a thing. He says, "Arey, wo Rajiv ke time pe main arsh pe tha, aur Sonia ji ke time pe main farsh pe aa gaya." So I think in political parties and with political individuals, this happens that in a moment somebody is up, the other time they are down. This is very much part and parcel. But you look at the resilience of political parties, they just keep fighting, and I think that is the fascinating part, that they don't give up. Both in terms of, if you look at the voting behavior in India, voting percentage is actually going up. I mean, I keep thinking that there is so much, corruption, there is so much of, sort of misuse of religion. Think of any ill that's not there in politics. Here people give up, and the voting things are, are going up higher and higher. So this kind of the zeal and quest and the people's ability to experiment, like you're talking about Punjab, look at the kind of experiment that has been taking place constantly. And so they don't give up, and I think that is something which has been a very redeeming feature of Indian democracy.
Amandeep, Punjab is very enigmatic because I belong to the land and I vouch for the fact that it has great enigma. And people sitting outside, at times they don't understand the depth it has. So when you went there, after your schooling, of course, I think you were there in when the turmoil was there, during the militancy days. And not many things changed during that time. So when you went back to write your book, what did you discover about the people, about the land of Punjab?
See, there is a natural disaster, and what has the government got to do with it? That was a question in my mind. And then I realized that government has everything to do with it, with policies, with the pesticides which were like fake pesticides being given to farmers, with non-pest resilient seeds being given to farmers. There was a huge complicity of the government in that. And both center and state, it's not any one government which is. Within 2 days, this sacrilege happens in village Bargadi. Guru Granth Sahib's pages are, we call it Ang. They are torn and thrown in the streets of the village. And the next day, there is a sort of a mass movement. People are angry, they are gone with it. Police fires, 2 people die. And the whole issue of the protest is turned on its head and it now becomes a religious issue. After that, for 15 days, there was almost an administrative failure in Punjab. The police was nowhere to be seen, the official machinery was nowhere to be seen, politicians were of course silent. And this is a Akali Dal period. Badal was in power. And people just come out on the roads and stand. And Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, everybody. And they have placards saying Rosh, anger. That's all they do, demonstrate anger. But not violently. Think of it, any part of the country, for 15 days there is an administrative failure. What would happen there? But in Punjab, nothing happened. And there were few incidents, sporadic. Some tree was thrown and somebody bike crashed into it in that time. But otherwise it was just huge. I was stunned. And even at that time, which now is proven, that first a few sacrileges were linked to this Godman Ram Rahim, who's later on been convicted, has been in jail, keeps coming out on parole every few days, and does all his nastiness. So, and this was a problem going back 10 years. I was in 2015, 8 years, in 2007, when my mother lay dying in Mandi Dabwali in Punjab, in her last days. I could not leave my house to go to Chandigarh to get morphine for her, because this Ram Rahim had been clashing with the Sikhs at that time. It was a complete deja vu for me. I'm like, hello, what is happening here? And then if you actually pull out the history and look at when Operation Blue Star happened, before that law and order had failed, no doubt about it. President's rule had been implemented, no doubt about it. There was Sikh separatism caused, no doubt about it. But there was also a huge farmers' protest in March 1984. And like, that was a farmers' protest 20 years after the Green Revolution started in Punjab. What happened to that Green Revolution that farmers were so angry with the government? And now again it was a farmers' protest. And when Blue Star happens and here sacrilege happens and the similar twist is given to. Basically the issue is political economy, which is always given a religious spin. If you have to understand it in one line, it is this. Punjab is a crisis of political economy to which always has a religious spin given and things go on. That was one thing I observed. What was the question?
What did you discover about Punjab?
This was the primary discovery. That you are gaslighting people. People are fighting for a certain reason. There will be problems with administration. There will be citizens always have grievances against the state. Problems can be solved. You don't have to blow it out of proportion. And then Pakistan has got involved, foreign agencies have got involved, foreign hand is involved. This is the same Punjab that defended India 3 times after independence. These guys, right? Indian forces on the border, she's from Amritsar, Bansal is there, ask them. Their villages stood out behind the army with all sorts of langar, with kheer reaching the army to fight the Pakistani army. Why would these people want to have a separate country, separate nation and whatever? And if you go back even further, if you look at when partition happens, what kind of an odd line was drawn by this lawyer who had no sense about this territory. Radcliffe had never come to India before. He stayed here 5 months, 5 weeks and just drew a line through mosques, through gurdwaras, through ponds and villages, through schools, through houses. And he just lacerated this great land called Punjab. And even in that laceration, there is a Hindu question, there is a Muslim question, yeah. But the Sikhs' voice, nobody hears it. Nobody hears it. What do the Sikhs want? So there are grievances. And these are the Sikhs who, if you go and look at Andaman Nicobars, you see the cell there, prison cell, you will see how many, what percentage of Sikhs were actually were sacrificing their lives for the freedom movement. When the Gurdwara movement Punjab won it against the British Mahants, Gandhi's first message to them was the first battle of Indian independence is won. And the same people now you charge them with all sorts of terms because you don't want to address their issues. So the human grievance, and that is Punjab's text now. It feels that we are just a food producing colony for India. Just 2 weeks back, General Brar gave another interview. Right? I've thoroughly, critiqued his book in my own book, because the reason he finally gave for Operation Blue Star was that Punjab has announced that it will not give wheat to the country. So, even if it is announced, I tried very hard to find who announced it. Nobody knows who announced it. But the call came from Akal Takht. Okay. So what would be your reaction? That on a day of Guru Arjan Dev's anniversary, when thousands of pilgrims have gathered there, you're going to bomb the place. No wonder Punjab feels we are just a food producing colony for India. And that is what it is actually. If you look at it, what does the state give? State means nation state. What does it give to Punjab? You don't put industries there. You don't educate the youth well. You don't give them jobs. Everybody is migrating, and there are drugs. Whose problem is it? Is it the people's issue, or is it something else playing out here? That's why I said it's a very contested land, and the apathy that you see, and that's what my first chapter is called, apathy, is great. But my only appeal to the nation state is that recognize that this is your key defense position for the country. If you treat it well, if you just handle its situations, solve its problems, you'll have the greatest, chowkidars of the country, actually, which they have proven previously in history.
Amandeep, a very tricky question. People living in Punjab, they are in some sort of oblivion, because when I go there, I realize that they don't know what the feeling is amongst the people who are not in Punjab regarding Punjab. Punjabis have always safeguarded the border. They have stood there like soldiers, but like what you said, as little kids, I remember the war of 65, I remember the war of 71, and we were always there, cheering the soldiers. And today also, whenever there is a crisis, I think we are the front runners, and we showed it during the COVID. And still, every now and then, for no rhyme or reason, suddenly we hear, Punjab ko khatra hai, desh ko khatra hai. What do you say about that?
I completely think these are bogey terms being imposed upon the people. Even a term like Khalistan. I argue hard in my book that please let's not keep using the same term for every issue. There are different demands in different periods in the history of Sikhs and India. And they were not always separatist calls. It was just questions being asked about how will we be treated. But now the state has just found this convenient label, which they keep pasting on Punjab's head all the time, and is rumor mongering. And I think Captain Amrinder played a great, nasty role in like this rumor mongering. And of course, the Congress has done it, and even the BJP tries to do it now. So it's see, this book was an attempt to unlabel Punjab, and to look at the awam, to look at the people, look at who we are. Right now, today morning, my next book I was interviewing Jagdeep sir, he's sitting here, asking his family's glorious history of army, 3 generations. And here, right here in Jaipur, his grandfather served the Maharaja of Jaipur. This is the tradition of this people. This valorous tradition of the people of Punjab needs to be respected. And there was a respect. I was born in Odisha. And I remember when I was a kid, everybody would call my father Sardar Ji. And suddenly on 31st October 1984, my father goes to the market and says, Maro sale ko sala Sardar hai. What happened to that G? And therein lies the tragedy of how we have conceived or perceived Punjab. In the dropping of a simple etiquette. These are the soldiers, these are the farmers, and I'm now discovering how big transporters of the country these people have been. Just give them their due. They're not asking for some special status. They're not asking for some extra benefits. They're just saying that if our Kisan is dying under loans, then please give us a loan waiver so that we don't die. We are saying that if for 50 years we have fed the country, then don't please kill us with cancer now. Is that a wrong demand at any level? What is the, we can come to that if you want later, but even the demand all the farmers in the country are making for minimum support price. In what trade in this world does the producer of anything does not put the price of what he is producing? Somebody brought this table here, right? The carpenter or the house from where it was bought put a price tag on it. He said, this table is for this much, you want take, you can pay, you take it, you don't want to pay, don't take it. But for farmers, the price would be determined by the government. This is the largest small enterprise in the country. There are 100 million farmers in India. And their produce is determined by the government. Why can't they determine the price of what they want to produce? It will create havoc in the country if they were to determine it. As I described in the book, statistics between 1971 and 2011, there was a 17 times increase in wheat price between 71 and there has been a 300% increase in teacher's salary, 1,000 time increase in a GM's salary, and the farmer just gets a 17 times increase. That's an agrarian land. Most issues are agrarian, and of course caste and gender and all these other things. So that's why I focused on the farming aspect of it. The demands are very, very genuine. That's what I've understood. The sense of now they're just tired, they don't want to even engage.
Kidwai sir, you have written a lot about the most important event in a democracy, that is the elections. So what are your major learnings, observations from local players like N.T. Ramarao, Mamata Banerjee, Mayawati, the Yadav family? So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to that my book, Ballot, I wrote that 10 elections that have transformed India. I think today with the conversation we are having are two very, I would say at a different levels, whereas Mr. Amandeep is representing the problems of, so to say, real India, real people, and something that's very depressing and it's very, I would say, distressful as well. And here, you were asking me about the beneficiaries of the same democracy that is, introduced. So these are all, and Narasimha Rao had said famously about Mayavati, these are miracles of democracy. I mean, there was N.T. Ramarao was a film actor, and recently he joined politics, and he wins in a very, very massive, mandate. This whole idea of this political yatra we were talking about, he was the first one. He started that Chaitanya Yatra. N.T. Ramarao was also credited with this, having this 1 rupee kg that rice, that free rice scheme that various governments later on adopted, that we call it welfareism. So these were the people who understood the pulse of the people who understood how to, so to say, manipulate the system politically, democratically, and emerge really strong and powerful.
Let me just link it to that and something you said earlier. Let's not make it two different talks. With deep respect, and I understand where you're coming from, but I think democracy is a failed idea in India, precisely because of elections. And the world doesn't have a solution on how to organize a society. All previous experiments have failed. There were monarchs, there were colonial powers, there were imperialist powers. All those don't work. Definitely they don't work. But electoral democracy in India is so manipulated today and has become such an identitarian affair that I feel it has failed in India as well. This is my strong belief. That's why I'm fed up of elections in the country. And I'm fed up of of parties which are constantly on a 24/7 election mode all the time. I'm fed up of parties which are always giving benefits to particular kinds of people in the society on the basis of how much votes they will get from them. Democracy to me is an idea. It was Plato's idea, of course. But its implementation through adult franchise is a failure in India. And that is another failure with Punjab as well. Because, this first past the post system that we have in India, and nobody can change it, no political party. I mean, anyway, there's going to be BJP for the next 25 years, I have no doubt about that. But even if there were another party coming to power, it can't change it. It's too much at stake, changing first past the post. But ideally, Indian democracy should have been proportional representation, not adult franchising. That's my belief. Tell me if I'm wrong. You would have solved Punjab with that.
In fact, I was about to have an agreement with him differently, because the failure of Indian democracy is largely because, we had economic reforms, so we have not had electoral reforms. All of us know that elections cost very much, money. Presently, for the MLA seat, there is a whole expenses ceiling of rupees 50 lakhs, and for parliament it is 75 lakhs. We all know it's open fact that most major political parties and they spend at least 10 times or more. So where does it come from? So we are actually having a very corrupt political system. We may have had one of the most honest persons in public life, that being Dr. Manmohan Singh, a Punjabi, as a Prime Minister not once but twice. But the fact is that he was lording over a very corrupt political system. Imagine all 542 members of parliament, regardless of which political party they went from, they actually give some kind of wrong certificate to the election commission, which accepted that their poll expenses have been less than whatever the limit is there. So it's a very simple way of looking at it, and this also explains, as I had told my friend Priyanka Kothari at another forum, that this is actually reason why there is so much of dynasty culture. When you have so much of corruption, when you have so much of black money, who do you trust? So, this is not a justification, but this is one of the reasons why you go for somebody who is your family member that you can trust. I have also told that I was sitting with the Chief Minister, and he was very disappointed during the Diwali time that his cook, Rasoiya, had gone away with a box of sweets. So I asked him, I said, why are you so upset? It's just a box of sweets in Diwali. He said, नहीं कोई वो मिठाई ऊपर थी, उसके नीचे चांदी की वो सोने की मूर्तियाँ रखी हुई थी. So somebody walked away, Rasoiya went away with that, and he could not, file a FIR or a police case against him. So this is a tip of iceberg. There's so much of corruption is there in public life.
Amandeep, we are coming to the end of the session, so one last question. In the Penguin edition of your book Punjab, Across the Fault Lines, you have added a new chapter. May we ask you about it? Can you update us quickly about it, please?
Yeah, but we're just getting warmed up. Why are we closing? There is no other session after it. We can talk for 10 more minutes. You know, like, okay, but see, the book is called Punjab Journeys Through Fault Lines. The idea in my mind was that if this space, this region, these people, this Shahar, in some ways, Minnie was asking me earlier, why in Shaharnama, why do we have Punjab? I said, because Punjab is actually as big as the NCR region, you know. It's just that much. I mean, the Delhi NCR region is the same size as Punjab, so it is a share. Of course, a very layered share. But like colonies in a city also. But I kept toying with what to call the book. And I went back to my original title, which was Punjab Journeys Through Fault Lines, because I realized that if this region has to crack, the fault line is where the earthquake happens. And it is in the seismic zone anyway, we know that. And if it has to break, it will break on these lines. So like chapters like apathy, like karza, like pani, like jat, like siksha, you know, these kind of chapters. Because this is where the will break. And at the time of it, I was dismal also, you know, that, sorry, this is a book that could be made. And then within a year of it, Punjab showed a completely different side of it, completely different. My friend, an activist I was meeting yesterday, he said the northwest states of India. You know, I said, yeah, northwest states of India. Punjab, Haryana, parts of Rajasthan, western UP, some parts of Madhya Pradesh. This entire region came up as a response to the government's draconian farm laws with the farmers' protest. And every single fault line of my book closed up because it just stood as one people. And it lasted over a year, this protest ended up in 730 deaths of protesters. But finally, for the first time, the government said, okay, we take back the laws. Whatever be the reasons, UP elections coming or intelligence sources, and I covered the protests, I participated in it, since I'd done Punjab, and I realized that this language of this protest is Punjabi and Hindi, so I became, it's not like anything special, but I tried to make the protest known in English, which was very, very important at that time. So like I spoke to these various foreign universities, this Oxford and Berkeley and all that. I wrote number of articles about it. My Facebook post was like, I just said, please just copy and send, don't credit me, because I just got tired accepting. When we got tagged on a post, I said, please don't do this. My post would come back to me 2-3 days later through WhatsApp, you know, like, I was, wow. But like some of us, many of us who came together, we articulated the protests. And in many ways, the whole book, the protest negated my own book, you know, and I loved it for that. So I included a chapter on that. But let me just finish with something that the protest showed Punjab. It showed us the value of narration, of holding a narrative. The Kisan Andolan was won on the ground, of course, by the people who participated, but also in cyberspace, where Godi media, government, all sorts of players tried to discredit the protest the most. And the farmers created their own social media cell, their own Twitter handles, their own articulation, and they articulated the protest. So there was a cyber narrative war going on. And for the first time, I think in 100 years, we talk about the Gurdwara movement and now this farmers' protest, that Punjab could uphold its narrative. And that, I think, was a great additional victory of the protest. that we learn to tell our stories. And this is now proven through in another protest going on against a distillery in Punjab. There was another protest about the river Satluj being used for a textile complex which would have polluted the river. Punjab is learning to speak, and that to me is very good.
Thank you, Kidwai sir. Thank you, Amandeep.
Thank you.
Any questions, please? Yes, Mr.
I am Jagdeep. Thank you very much for a very engaging session indeed on Punjab. So I have two questions from Mr. Amandeep. One is, what is his view on the modernization of Jallianwala Bagh, number one. Number two is, what is the current situation in Punjab in terms of literary, culture and art? There is this joke which goes around for many years that the only culture in Punjab is agriculture. But we know that in the past, Punjab has produced such great poets and writers. I don't hear of current scene of Punjabi writers. So on these two aspects, if you could throw some light. Thank you.
I hate the modernization of Jallianwala Bagh. There is no doubt in my mind. I mean, you should not have touched it. If you had to touch it, just upkeep the place. Don't add all these statues and all this writing and all. This is a place of death. This is a place where people were fleeing the bullets of British police. It's not everything doesn't have to become Disneyland. In fact, sir, I will add to it. After 2017, I hardly have gone to the Darbar Sahib of Amritsar, because that's also been Disneyfied. People of Amritsar tell me, एक flyover ले आए और हमसे अमृतसर छीन लिया है. Because all these tourists they go straight into the parking and get down and walk. I don't know what is that heritage street. It is full of Rajasthani architecture. Rajasthani architecture is good in Rajasthan. Why do you have to do it in Punjab?
Seeing all this in Rajasthan,
Yeah, no, it's very great. I mean, I love Rajasthani architecture, but why should why does Punjab have to have it? Right? Town hall का क्या बना दिया है इन्होंने वहाँ? This is all Padal government contractors, A1 L1 contractors. That's what is happening. On the literature scene, I am also sad that for a while now, see, Punjab had poets, so much great poetry, including the Gurbani, Veer Waris Shah, Sasi Punno, so many great love ballads, but also great essays. The form which I loved about Punjabi was essay form, which took on in the earlier 20th century. But after the decline of the essay form, even the novels, even the poetry, hardly any plays, they haven't really taken off. I mean, there are some nice writers, some works very good. I have personally enjoyed reading them. I'm friends with those people. But it doesn't have a push like, say, Malayalam or say Bengali or some other regional languages. And that I feel sad about it. And not only from this Punjab, even from that Punjab, there isn't much of a literary outpouring now. At one time there was Faiz, there was Manto, there were so many great. So I feel sad that we are so caught up in survival mode that we don't have the leisure to really compose writings.
Anybody else?
Talking about the other Punjab, are there any platforms which are working on at the people? I know the politics of the whole situation, but at the people to people level to sort of create a literary sort of platform?
Yeah, of course, yes. Yeah. I mean, during the COVID time, there was this Raipur History Society, brilliant. Tohit Chattha and his wife. They invited so many of us to speak. There is a small little college in Muktsar which has created a platform where so many of us speak to each other. You know, Lakshmi Singh has created it. There's recently a Faiz festival happened. My friend Amy Singh, who did this Lahore to Chitti, she has been posting pictures from Lahore, you know, she's gone there. I think there's great affection between the people of both sides. There's also this common Punjabi language. And I wish the government would look at it from that point of view. The opening of Kartarpur Sahib corridor was a brilliant step, but I wonder why can't it be followed with another 200 temples and gurdwaras being open to each other for both sides? See, we are the two poorest countries in the world, and our defense spending is so high. You know, we can actually, I mean, you have intelligence now, you know how to handle it. You don't need to indulge in this easy, you know, to and fro rhetoric, 56 inch ki chhati and ghar mein ghus ke marunga. That kind of language at all with each other. You can make peace. The people want peace. Both can spend on education, both can spend on hospitals, both can spend on creating jobs. But this is the tragedy, I said, that they're constantly fighting with each other.
So on that count, at least you can give some credit to Captain Amandeep Singh.
I give credit to Arusa Alam.
Thank you very much, and thanks to both of you once again. And it was a pleasure, and as he said, you know, it was a very, very diverse thing, you know, like this is something very different what Amandeep has written, and Kidwai Sahab has written mainly about the Indian politics. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mini ji. At least जो हमारे सत्र का अंत हुआ वो थोड़ी हंसी के साथ हुआ. It was a very serious conversation today, what I saw here. And to felicitate on the panel, I want to invite Ruhi Sayar, Ehsaas woman from Jalandhar.